Greetings on the second video today. Jimmy is with you as always. Thanks to all those who do not forget to leave comments with their opinions. I will read them all. I will not detain you. Let's start. First story in the second part from the user. Constant space, let's listen. The wound's still a bit fresh. A month ago, my wife of 22 years tragically died in a car crash. Cynthia was one of those drivers that loved to stare into her phone, and unfortunately this bad habit caught up with her in the last week of January. I was pretty devastated when the police showed up at my door and told me she had a fatal accident, and I wanted to honor her somehow. At the time of the accident, I had no idea she was having an affair. The last 4 or 5 months, I did notice she was pulling away, and our intimacy decreased. But I thought this was just something that happened to couples after 20 years, so I didn't pay much mind to it. But, at least from what she told me, Cynthia started to get into writing. She was constantly on her laptop, typing away at all hours. She told me she was working on a fantasy book, hopefully the first of a series. When I asked more, she said it was about a fantasy world where a super advanced human race appears and interacts with orcs and elves and magic with laser guns and high tech. It sounded very cool, and Cynthia promised as soon as she had a first draft she liked, she would let me read it. I decided to honor her by getting the draft of her book and hiring a writer to clean it up and publish it with a novelty press. I got on her laptop and no book, no sign at all. I opened her Chrome, thinking she might have written it in Google Drive, and saw a bunch of pinned tab. One was a Facebook Messenger tab with a ton of her messages with a man, John. I have no idea who John is. Never met him, but they talked about meeting up, exchanged photos, everything. The last message John sent her was 2 days before Cynthia's accident. The two saying they loved each other, and him saying he was going on a business trip to Germany. The messages between Cynthia and John has shown they had met up at the house more than once, so I already had the locks changed. Not sure if John is back yet, and frankly, don't care if he is. I was thoroughly devastated. She did have a Google Drive tab, but in her drive wasn't a book about elves versus Vulcans, but a shared document with John. The document was a plan her and John drafted on how to divorce me, turn the kids against me, and take our home and as much money as possible. One thing she noted was, she has been taking money, a few hundred a month, and putting it in a separate account. I got the bank thing sorted out, and the money in the kids' college account. I've also been going to therapy twice a week now. It is hard to be mad at someone dead, especially someone everyone else in your life is grieving and praising as a wonderful wife and mother. I have asked my therapist if I should tell my kids about what Cynthia has done and what she was planning to do. My therapist cautioned me about this. He said that they just lost their mother, and being told this would be condemning her memory. Damnatio memoriae. Maybe now is not the time, but I think eventually would be a time for my kids to know. Author update this story. Some things have happened since last time. To answer some questions, I have gone to the bank and got control of Cynthia's account and transferred the money into a savings account for the kids. Also, my kids already suspected. Tuesday night, my eldest Michelle said her and my son Jason had something to say to me. They sat me down in the living room, and Michelle said, "We think Mom was cheating on you." They both said they weren't sure, but it was eating them up seeing me in extreme grief the past month, and they thought I should hear what they suspect. They brought up how Cynthia was always away, and when she was at home, she would say strange observations about me. Stuff like, "Isn't it weird your dad's working late this week?" This is one of those seeds Cynthia mentioned in her document that she wanted to plant in the kids. Michelle said her suspicions went high the week before the accident, when she got home from school and saw a strange jacket on the coat hook by the front door. It wasn't any jacket Jason or I had, so she was very suspicious about it. I told both my kids that I didn't tell them, but I found evidence on their mom's computer when I was looking for the book she said she was writing. Michelle wanted to see the evidence, but Jason said he doesn't want to think or talk about Mom for a while. I shared the info with Michelle after she insisted she already suspected her mom and was ready for it. It feels good to now have someone close that can talk to me about this beyond my therapist. Yesterday afternoon, I was home alone when I heard someone jiggling the back door's knob. I went to the door and saw a man I never saw before trying to use a key on the lock. I told him to step back from the door, and he almost jumped. I opened the door a crack and asked him who he was and what he was doing in my backyard. It was John, Cynthia's affair partner. He told me that he worked with my wife. and he just got back from a trip and saw Cynthia died on social media, and him and Cynthia were starting a business. They had a business bank account with his investment money in the business, and he was wondering if I could help him get the business funds transferred over. I looked him straight in the eye and said I was at the bank and Cynthia didn't have an extra business account, and I had no idea what he was talking about. John also said that he wanted to check my wife's things for any sensitive business documents. I said he was a stranger and wasn't welcome in my home, especially since he tried to enter without permission. John looked defeated, but did suggest he would consult with a lawyer about his sensitive business documents and business funds. What I think about this story? Honestly, Oop lucked out and got the best possible ending. No emotionally exhausting confrontation, no lengthy separation, no tedious shared child custody. The kids found out on their own, the money is secure, ample proof of cheating, AP caught trespassing. The trash took itself out quite literally and quite magnificently at that, leaving everything spick and span. It feels borderline criminal, and if this was a movie, you'd get a Shyamalan twist at the end showing OP in a flashback walking away from his garage, with the camera slowly panning down to a car with its brakes cut. Let's check the user comment. The problem, of course, is this is clearly fake. The story is far too well written to be from a random grieving person. Notice now each paragraph just about the same length and follows a very focused telling of the story. Each paragraph not only moves it along, but does so in a very clear and tight writing style while introducing new twists and elements. It also has a clear good guy, a clear bad guy, and dramatic worries that don't quite resolve but evolve. First it is, do I tell the kids? Then, the kids suspect. Then, the kids have real evidence to share. Next, there is the introduced conflict of John arriving with a key to the house and an interest in the bank accounts that just happened to be the focus of his earlier actions. Getting to the bank, getting the accounts, moving the money. This is setting up the next twist to come in the drama story. John suing for the money, or John being discovered going through the house, or John being confronted by the police. Lots of way this can go. Maybe the author will introduce John's wife, who will turn out to be super nice and sympathetic. The kids will love her, and she'll just naturally bond with the OOP, and after a back and forth of, should we? Is it right? They'll eventually give in and have a special moment, where they will likely kiss, but go no further. They will set up a soon-to-happen date to properly go out, and they will later report that the date was amazing, and they are now seeing each other. The kids will be really excited to hear she's moving in. The new ex-John will cause a little trouble once or twice. Remember, he's the villain. But it will be okay in the end, because the will either get him fired from the job he shared with the cheating wife and have to move away back in with his parents, or he will get put in jail for coming to the house and making threats. The second story from the user Plastic T, let's listen. Me, 29 male, and my wife Angie, 27 female, have a son, Sam, turned 2 this week. We're part of a friend group made up of 7 people, including us. There is one more couple in this group. The other 3 are Zoe, 32 female, Greg, 41 male, and Tim, 30 male. Zoe doesn't like kids. She openly avoids them whenever she can. I've always known about this and have no problem with it. There have, however, been occasions in which she seemed to take it a bit too far. The friend group lives all over the country now, and most of us only get together once or twice a year. This January, we all decided to take a 5-day trip to Greg's beach house. It's in a different state and a 2-hour flight away. Both Greg and Tim have children. Greg made sure to invite us over while his kid would be with his ex. But Tim is a single father and couldn't afford to leave his daughter with a babysitter for 5 days. Due to that, it was decided that both Tim's daughter and Sam were welcome on the trip. Angie and I offered to leave Sam with my mother-in-law, but the whole group, including Zoe, said it was fine. All of these decisions were made 2 months in advance. 2 days prior to the trip, Tim informed us that his daughter had chickenpox and he had to cancel their tickets to stay with her. At that, Zoe called Angie and said, "Guess your mom will have a busy week." My MIL was traveling and wouldn't be back for another week. We had no other babysitting options available, or time to find one, so we told Zoe that we were still bringing Sam with us. Zoe protested, saying that she was only okay with having kids around during the trip because she knew Tim had no choice, and we had no excuse to bring Sam now that Tim's daughter wasn't coming anymore. But we held our ground. The others took our side. During the trip, Angie and I made efforts to help Zoe avoid Sam as much as possible. This ended up making our own trip underwhelming, as we were spending a lot of time apart and didn't get to see our friends as much as we wanted to. But it worked. Zoe and Sam were in the same room a total of 4 times, including both our arrival and departure from Greg's house. In spite of that, she insists that we ruined her trip by bringing him, and that it was selfish of us to not consider her feelings about children after Tim dropped out. Zoe hasn't spoken to us since we flew back home. This week, she unfollowed Angie on Instagram 10 minutes after she made a post for Sam's 2nd birthday, so I think she's still bitter. Angie has been feeling guilty about this. I tried to reassure her we had no other option, and it was unreasonable of Zoe to ask us to change our plans at the last minute like that. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't consider we might be in the wrong. Ada? Author update this story. Hey again, I went through your comments on my previous post, as well as your replies to my own comments, and managed to come to terms with the fact that Angie and I can no longer be friends with Zoe. Many of you asked why we were still friends in the first place. Most of the friend group has known each other since college, hence the different ages. I'm actually an outsider. I became friends with them through my wife. I know Zoe well, but she was definitely closer to Angie than to me. I don't think Reddit is the best place to describe an almost decade-long friendship in proper detail, but I will say Zoe was usually a nice and generous friend. But she started getting more and more rude as we started having kids. She basically ignored my wife during her pregnancy and made several demeaning comments after Sam was born. Angie only forgave her because she apologized, half-heartedly, if you ask me. The other couple in the friend group has been trying to conceive for a few months, and she frequently jokes that they need to enjoy life while they can. She's nicer to Tim because he's a single father, but she very clearly doesn't like his daughter. So I think that everyone, myself included, is much more fond of college Zoe, and it was only because of that fondness that we still hung out. The more I read your comments, the more it became clear the group has outgrown that friendship. Looking back, I feel awful about my efforts to keep Sam and Zoe apart. My son is not toxic, and I shouldn't have treated him as such. If Zoe can't respect Sam and treat him like a human being, I have no obligation to put up with her. I spoke to Angie. She said that Zoe had always been a shoulder to cry on, but often also the reason she was crying in the first place. She told me it had been hard to accept that, but Zoe's behavior during the trip was the last straw. We agreed to end our friendship with her. We both texted Zoe that we wished her well, but it's best that we go our separate ways. She responded by calling my wife the C word and was blocked. We later found out she'd complained to the rest of the group, plus some other mutuals, that we'd become selfish, entitled parents that let our kid ruin her vacation before cutting her off. Those who know that's not true have told us they're thinking about ending their friendships with her as well. Both Greg and Tim already have. I don't think I have anything else to add. I'll do my best to use this experience to become a better father, husband, and friend. My family is everything to me, and I'll never lose sight of that. Thank you all. What I think about this story. Having kids changes things. I tell first-time parents that you don't fit a kid into your life. You fit your life around the kid, especially in the first few years. It also can change relationships, especially with childless friends, and more so with childless friends who don't like children. Good luck to Zoe. Here's hoping she finds more child-free people with whom to socialize, since she's effectively destroyed some of her current friendships. Let's check the user comment. I'm child-free, but I adore babies. One of my friends is child-free, but stays away from babies. In our group, there are 2 toddlers and 2 babies to be born this 2024. All our plans include the kids, and is up to the mother to decide if the baby joins or not. We all behave with the toddlers as if they were our own child, and really feels like it takes a village when we are with them. I have even been chosen by one of the toddlers to be the one who helps him when he goes to the bathroom, and their mother was amazed about how well I did as a substitute mom so she can take a breath. I really enjoy how we have adapted these children in our lives and can't wait for these new 2 to be born. We are already making plans for 2025 that are baby-proofed. Thank you to everyone who is with us today. Unfortunately, today's stories have come to an end, but do not get upset, because tomorrow I will come back to you with new stories. I love everyone. Bye-bye.